All right, so today we're going to dive into holistic living, but with a twist.
Uh,
We're exploring it through Yahweh's way.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's not your typical wellness deep dive.
Right.
So get ready for some intriguing ideas.
Okay.
We're going to be unpacking a podcast episode titled Holistic Living Yahweh's Way, 3 Steps to Transform Your Body, Spirit, and Mind.
Okay.
And as you can guess, it focuses on those 3 core areas.
Yeah.
And it does use specific scripture and biblical figures. So
Okay.
just a heads up on that.
Okay. I think what I find so fascinating is that this approach blends ancient wisdom with like a modern take on wellness.
Exactly.
Let's see how they connect the dots.
Yeah. So the first step on this Yahweh's way is transforming your body.
Okay.
And they kick things off with a powerful image from the Bible, 1 Corinthians 3.16,
Mm-hmm.
which talks about our bodies being temples of God.
Yeah.
It's basically saying, hey, treat your body with reverence.
Oh, wow.
It's sacred.
Think about the temple metaphor encourages us to see our bodies not just as physical shells, but as something worthy of deep respect and care.
And to care for this temple, the source gets pretty specific about what we should and shouldn't be putting into our bodies.
Okay.
They call out GMOs and processed foods as huge culprits in all sorts of health issues.
Now remember, this source is coming from a particular worldview.
Mm-hmm.
They believe that the way we eat directly impacts our connection with the divine.
Right.
So for them, choosing natural, whole foods is about more than just physical health.
Right.
It's about aligning yourself with a higher purpose.
They even go as far to say that GMOs and processed foods mess with our hormones,
Wow.
leading to higher stress levels and even addictive-like behaviors.
Oh, wow.
It's like they're saying these foods are hijacking our natural state of well-being, both physically and spiritually.
Yeah.
Pretty intense, right?
It definitely highlights how deeply they believe in the connection between our physical choices and our overall well-being. While the scientific community might debate some of the specifics about GMOs,
Sure.
their underlying message about mindful eating is worth considering.
Exactly.
What we consume impacts us on multiple levels.
Totally. And on that note, they actually suggest a pretty practical first step, replacing just one processed meal per day with a whole plant-based option.
Okay.
It's not about going all in on a restrictive diet.
Right.
It's about making small, conscious choices.
Exactly. They're emphasizing a gradual shift towards a healthier lifestyle, which can feel a lot more manageable.
Right, for sure.
Oh.
Now, to help us along this journey of nourishing our temple, the source gets really excited about the power of herbs.
Okay.
They specifically mention ashwagandha,
Yeah.
chamomile,
Yeah.
turmeric, and ginger.
These herbs aren't just trendy ingredients. They have a long history of use in traditional medicine.
Oh, cool.
Think about it, for centuries, people have turned to these plants for their calming and anti-inflammatory properties.
I love that.
And this source is bringing that ancient wisdom into their modern approach to holistic living.
So ditch the processed stuff, embrace the natural goodness.
Yeah,
That's kind of their motto, right?
for sure.
I have to admit, I'm intrigued by these herbal remedies myself.
It's great to be curious and open to exploring different approaches to well-being.
Yeah.
But remember, even natural remedies can have interactions
Mhm.
and potential side effects.
Oh, pretty.
It's always smart to chat with your doctor before making any major changes to your diet, especially if you're taking medications or have any underlying health conditions.
Absolutely. Good reminder. Okay, so we've talked about nourishing the body,
Right.
which is just the first step on this Yahweh's way.
Right.
But there's more to this approach than just what we eat.
Okay.
Now get ready to delve into the spiritual side of things.
All right.
Because that's where it gets really interesting.
And that's exactly where this source differentiates itself from more mainstream wellness advice.
All right.
They're bringing spirituality into the equation in a very explicit way.
Right. They emphasize spiritual nourishment just as much as physical nourishment.
Wow.
Even quoting Matthew 4.4, which says, "Man shall not live by bread alone,
Mm-hmm.
but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God."
Powerful.
They're saying there's more to life than just the physical stuff.
This quote really highlights their belief that true well-being requires us to find sustenance and meaning beyond just the material world.
Right.
It's about connecting with something larger than ourselves.
And you know, it's interesting.
What's that?
They actually use a very modern example to illustrate this point. Social media.
Oh, interesting.
They argue that it's often a source of negativity, bombarding us with images and messages that can lead to envy, lust, and fear.
Now, regardless of your personal views on social media,
Sure.
this source raises a valid point.
Yeah.
It encourages us to think critically about how our engagement with technology might be impacting our mental and spiritual well-being.
Right.
Are we consuming content that truly nourishes us? Or are we constantly bombarded with things that leave us feeling depleted?
That's such a good question.
It's like they're saying, hey, be mindful of what you're feeding your spirit, not just your body.
And to counter this potential negativity from things like social media,
Huh?
the source points to King David in Psalm 23.
Yeah.
He found strength and solace in his connection with Yahweh's word, even during challenging times.
It's interesting.
They're highlighting a different source of nourishment, one that comes from faith and spiritual practice.
Okay.
They even introduce this concept of mindful consumption.
Interesting.
And it's not just about food, they apply it to everything. Media, conversations, the activities we choose to engage in.
Wow.
It's about being intentional about what we allow into our lives
Right.
and how it affects us on a deeper level.
And that's where the idea of Yahweh's way comes in. They believe that by aligning our choices with our faith, we can create a more harmonious and fulfilling life.
Okay.
It's about recognizing the interconnectedness of our body, mind, and spirit.
Okay, I'm starting to get the bigger picture here.
Yeah.
It's not just about following a set of rules.
Right.
It's about finding a way of life that aligns with your values and brings you closer to a sense of wholeness.
Exactly. And they believe that connection with Yahweh is key to achieving that wholeness.
So you're saying they're not just giving practical tips. They're offering a whole spiritual framework for approaching life.
That's right. And it's rooted in the belief that our physical, mental, and spiritual well-being are all intertwined.
Okay.
You can't be separated.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now I'm curious to see how they approach the mental aspect of this Yahweh's way.
Sure.
I'm guessing there's a spiritual dimension to that as well, right?
You bet. They have some very specific views on how to transform the mind.
Okay.
And you're right, it definitely ties back to their faith. Are you ready to dive into that now?
Absolutely. Bring on step 3.
Okay.
All right, so we've covered nourishing the body and the spirit
Right.
according to Yahweh's way.
Yep.
And now we're diving into their third step, transforming your mind.
Okay.
I'm guessing this is where they tie it all together.
You got it. They start by bringing in Romans 12.2,
Okay.
which encourages us to transform our minds and resist conforming to the patterns of the world. It's about intentionally shaping our thoughts and beliefs.
And they take this idea pretty seriously, right?
Yeah. They even claim that there are forces at play,
Okay.
specifically mentioning Lucifer,
Wow.
that use things like addictions and distractions to lead people away from experiencing true joy and peace.
So they believe there's like a spiritual battle.
This is a great example of how their specific belief system shapes their perspective on mental well-being.
Okay.
They believe that there's a spiritual battle going on for our minds.
Right.
And that we need to be vigilant in protecting ourselves from negative influences.
Whoa. That's pretty intense.
It makes you think about where your own distractions and negative thoughts are coming from, doesn't it?
It does. And this is where they connect mental health to overstimulation, lack of rest, and a disconnection from Yahweh's word.
Yes.
They believe that by strengthening our spiritual connection,
Okay.
we can better cope with the challenges of modern life.
So you're saying turning to faith and scripture can be a powerful tool for improving mental well-being.
Right. But they're not dismissing the role of other factors, right?
It's crucial to acknowledge that mental health is complex, and attributing it solely to a lack of spiritual connection would be an oversimplification.
Right. Of course.
There are many factors at play, including genetics,
Sure.
environment,
Yeah.
and life experiences.
Right. But I appreciate that they're acknowledging the spiritual dimension because it's often overlooked in mainstream discussions about mental health.
Absolutely. And what's interesting is that some of their practical tips for resetting the mind actually align with secular recommendations for improving mental well-being, regardless of your religious beliefs.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Well, they advocate for things like Sabbath rest,
Yep.
which involves setting aside a day for rest and rejuvenation. It's about disconnecting from the busyness of life
Right.
and intentionally creating space for reflection and connection.
That actually sounds amazing.
They also emphasize limiting screen time,
Right.
which we all know can be a source of stress and overstimulation.
For sure.
And they encourage practicing gratitude,
Okay.
which has been shown to have positive effects on mood and well-being.
So even if you don't subscribe to their specific belief system, There are still some valuable nuggets of wisdom here for anyone looking to improve their mental health, right?
Exactly. It's all about finding what resonates with you and incorporating practices that support your overall well-being.
Okay, so we've explored the 3 steps of Yahweh's way:
Right.
nourishing the body,
Yes.
strengthening the spirit,
Right.
and protecting the mind.
That's
It's
right.
a pretty comprehensive approach, and it's definitely rooted in their faith. But what struck me is that they don't just preach at you.
Right.
They really try to connect with their listeners on a personal level.
Right. They include a section with a prayer and a call to action.
Oh,
They encourage listeners to share the episode with others who might benefit from it
okay.
and to support each other on this journey toward holistic living.
It's like they're building a community around these ideas.
It's about building community.
Yeah, which can be so powerful, especially when it comes to personal growth and well-being.
That sense of belonging and shared purpose
Mm-hmm.
can be incredibly motivating and supportive.
Yeah.
It reinforces the idea that we're not alone on this journey.
And then they end with this really heartfelt prayer,
Okay.
expressing gratitude to Yahweh for creating them with purpose
Mm-hmm.
and asking for guidance in caring for their body, mind, and spirit. It's a beautiful reminder that for them,
Yeah.
this is more than just a self-improvement plan.
Right.
It's a way of life, a way of connecting with something larger than themselves.
That prayer really encapsulates the essence of Yahweh's way, doesn't it?
It does.
It's about aligning your actions with your faith and seeking guidance from a higher power.
Okay, I'm getting chills.
It reminds us that everyone has their own unique path to well-being.
Yeah.
And for some, that path is deeply rooted in their spiritual beliefs.
So even if you don't share the same faith, I think there's something to be learned from their approach.
Mm-hmm.
It's about being intentional about how you live your life
Right.
and finding practices that nourish your body, mind, and spirit.
It's about finding what works for you.
Exactly. And it's about being open to exploring different perspectives.
Absolutely.
Even if they challenge our own beliefs, sometimes the most unexpected sources can offer valuable insights.
Sure.
So where does that leave us, our listener?
Okay.
We've explored this unique approach to holistic living, and I have to say it's sparked a lot of new thoughts and questions for me. What about you?
I think this deep dive has highlighted the importance of recognizing the interconnectedness of our physical, mental, and spiritual well-being.
Right.
It's a reminder that true health goes beyond just the absence of disease. It's about cultivating a sense of wholeness and living a life that aligns with our values.
Well said. Now, before we wrap up, I have one final thought-provoking question for you,
Okay.
inspired by this source, but going a step further. Are you ready for it?
Bring it on. I'm all ears.
So remember that powerful metaphor of
Yeah.
the body as a temple?
Yes, it's a central theme in this whole Yahweh's Way approach.
Well, it got me thinking.
Okay.
In a world that's constantly bombarding us with messages about what's healthy and what's not,
Right.
fad diets, intense workout routines, the latest wellness trends,
Yeah.
what does it truly mean to honor and care for this temple in a way that feels authentic to us?
That's such a great question. It challenges us to move beyond those surface-level definitions of health and really examine what it means to nourish ourselves on a deeper level.
Exactly. Is it about achieving a certain body image?
Right.
Or following a rigid set of rules? Or is it about finding a balance that supports our physical, mental, and spiritual well-being
Yeah.
in a way that feels sustainable and fulfilling?
This source would likely say that true nourishment comes from aligning ourselves with Yahweh's will.
Right.
But even if you don't share that belief,
Yeah.
the underlying message is powerful.
Right.
It's about making choices that reflect your values and bring you closer to a sense of wholeness.
And I think that's where the real transformation happens, not just in our bodies or our minds, but in our overall approach to life.
Totally.
It's about becoming more conscious of our choices
Yeah.
and how they impact our well-being on every level.
It's about asking ourselves, what am I consuming?
Right.
Not just in terms of food,
Yeah.
but in terms of information, experiences, relationships, and is it truly nourishing me?
So as you go about your day, consider this. What does it mean to honor your temple in a way that feels true to you?
That's a good question.
Maybe it's incorporating those herbal remedies we talked about,
Yeah.
or exploring a new spiritual practice, or simply setting aside some time for quiet reflection.
Right.
Whatever it is, trust your intuition and choose what feels right for you.
And remember, there's no one-size-fits-all approach to well-being.
Right.
What works for one person may not work for another. It's about finding your own unique path and honoring the interconnectedness of your body, mind, and spirit.
Beautifully said. And that, my friend, brings us to the end of our deep dive into Yahweh's way.
Great episode.
We've explored a unique perspective on holistic living
Hmm.
and hopefully sparked some new ideas and questions along the way.
For sure.
Remember, the journey to well-being is ongoing, so keep exploring, keep learning, and keep growing.
Absolute.
Until next time,